E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories, broadcasting and live streaming to millions of devices around the world, including Roku, and live streaming to Facebook Live. Also on Amazon Fire TV and to Twitch. Also Android TV and Periscope. Broadcasting to Apple TV and YouTube Live. Proudly brought to you by our host, Donna and producer and host, Michaela Vidal, host and administrator, and Jim Grant, producer and host. Proudly brought to you by the 6minutewebinar.com.
Welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, here it is Wednesday, and I am so excited because, we are talking about how your attitude should fit your outlook.
Oh, yeah.
And how that, today we're going to touch base on how that relates with our children. Mm-hmm. That's a biggie.
It really is, because on Monday and Tuesday, we were talking about how our attitude should be in step with our outlook on life, being a perfect harmony and balance. But today we wanted to take a look at the kids too, and see how we can have a positive influence on our kids, and also, recognizing how to deal with. This is something that I didn't do a good job with, but how to deal with kids' attitudes other than shut up. And because I said so.
Well, it's important. And I think the first step is really, we have to examine our own behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? So, if you fly off the handle, if you're always serious, if you react to everything and don't think about it, right? And work that process, guess what? Those little teeny ears that are running around our house are going to mimic us and do the same thing we do. We've all heard it. I mean, my own children have done it, at a very tender age, said a very, let's just say, very inappropriate word or two. Mm-hmm. And I had to keep a straight face, but gosh, where'd they pick that up from? Mm-hmm. Right? They said a word that shouldn't have been said at that age.
That's right. And I'm trying to think of a specific incident. I don't remember specifically, but I do recall hearing my son say the same thing that I said. And for some reason, when he said it, I didn't like it. Have you ever been there, Donna?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And you have to look at yourself and literally say, wow, that's what I sound like.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if they're acting the same way you are, oh, look at my mini me. Mm-hmm. Well, is that a good mini me or is it a bad mini me?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And like you say, the very first thing you got to do is examine your own behavior. Are you a good role model?
Right.
That's one of the things that is not as popular today as it was in the past, and it should be. And that is for kids to have good role models with sports figures. I mean, because some of the sports figures of, days past, they were very aware of wanting to leave a positive image. And when a kid thought of them, they would think positively about who they were and what they accomplished on the sports field, but also off the sports field or outside the sports arena. Right. And that is huge, because kids really look up to people like that. And that goes across the board everywhere. from the sports player to the star in Hollywood, or the land of Follywood, as I call it, all the way down to you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we went out to Arizona on a family visit, reunion kind of a deal. And I hadn't seen one of Evelyn's cousins in about 20 years. And he came up to me and he says, I remember the time you did this. Oh, it made such an impression on me. And I'm thinking, I don't remember that. But it just goes to show you how an action that you do can influence someone, make an impression on a young mind. And imagine 20 years later, that'd be the first thing that comes out of his mouth. I remember you. Oh, man.
Right.
What you did and all that. And what he was talking about, I didn't have a clue.
Right. It's that old saying, it takes a village.
Yeah. It's very true. And the way we were brought up, on the farm there, growing up in the country there in North Carolina, I don't remember exactly what I did, but I did something over at my Aunt Bee's house. Imagine that, being raised in North Carolina and have an Aunt Bee. But she was an original Aunt Bee. And my Aunt Bee was a wonderful lady. She had been married 3 times. And I was teasing her and I said, Aunt Bee, are you going to get you another feller and marry number 4? She says, Lord, honey, no. She says, I've been married to 3 wonderful men. I've loved every single one of them to death. And I'm afraid number 4 would want to return the favor.
That's funny.
Yeah. Her first husband, I never knew. The second one, I kind of knew a little bit. And they all, had one. I think the first one died in an accident and the second one had a heart attack or something. And the third one, he was just, he was older than she was. And he just, sometimes, he didn't, we kind of wondered if he was there, He was a nice guy, but he just sat there and all of a sudden he just dozed off in the la la land,
Okay.
And I don't mean to talk bad about him because he was a wonderful fellow, but he was just, he was older than she was. She was always young, vibrant.
Right.
And the external age and her internal age was on 2 different spectrums.
Right. Right.
But I'd went over to her house and I was doing something over at Aunt Bee's house and I don't remember what it was, but anyway, she spanked me. So I came home with my little pride, and I wanted to complain to my mother. And I says, Mom, Aunt Bee spanked me. What did you do? She wanted to know what I did, and that's really changed because in the old days, if you go to school and you got a paddling at school from the teacher, you definitely got one when you got home.
Right. And
that was the way things were. And things have changed so much that we need to step back now, Donna. We were talking about this before the show started and before I got off on my soapbox. But we need to take a step back and look at the impact we're having on our kids.
Right.
And do we like ourselves? We covered that, a little bit earlier this week. Do you like yourself? Are you demonstrating something that your kids would love about you?
Well, how you treat your friends, your loved ones, how you talk about the people you work with, how you react to, maybe an unexpected bill that just has come at the wrong time. All of it, they mirror us.
Yeah.
They mirror us, and we are their first role model.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We're their first best friend, and we're usually their first enemy.
And we realize we're not going to do everything perfect, but whenever we realize we made a mistake and the kids saw it, absolutely. Number 1, you own it. Number 2, you want to make sure you sit down and just tell the kid, hey, this upset me, the timing was wrong, whatever. This is not me, and I reacted wrongly, and I don't want you to think that's the way you react or respond to situations because it isn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes that as adults, we forget that it's okay to apologize to our children.
That's
That's
true.
huge because, just because we're the adult doesn't mean we're always right.
Yeah.
And granted, we all have a lot going on in our lives. We're busy, we work, we've got, a million things going, irons in the fire, as they say. However, if we hurt our child's feelings, it's sometimes it's hard to get those words out and say, geez, baby, I am so sorry. I snapped at you. Whatever the case is. But that is so important to sit down and explain, I am sorry, because that also teaches them that they will learn to be able to say, I'm sorry to other people.
Yeah. Because I remember a couple of times my dad got mad about something and flew off the handle and did not even want to hear my side of the story. It was automatic whipping.
Right.
And, it was, that does not sit well. And he never, of course, this was not his character either. He was from a different school, but he never really asked me anything about it or ever wanted to hear my side of the story, really. I mean,
Right.
he just automatically jumped to the wrong conclusion there. Most of the time, it was the right conclusion, to be honest with you, but a couple of times it was the wrong one. But in doing that, you're setting a standard for your kid that the facts and the truth is not important. It's how
Right.
you feel.
That your way is the highway and that's the end of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of people who, they just live their life like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad because not only are they living a lifestyle that is miserable for them, they may not realize that, that they are adding to their misery because they're not happy. They know that. But the fact of it is that they're just adding to their misery because they're passing on negative energy to their kids. And anytime you're involved in a negative energy vortex,
It'll
you're not
suck you in.
you're not going to be happy.
Nope. It'll suck you in and everybody around it. Everybody around that will be included in that whole arena, So be careful which one you choose.
Yes.
Like that
Yes.
old saying, if you choose negative energy or you choose positive energy, whichever one you decide to choose chooses you.
That's right. That's right. And Donna, you're a high energy coach, and you teach people how to tap into, because we all have high energy,
Yes.
but sometimes we got it blockaded from mental blocks, and we're focused on the little mud holes in life. And that's a good way I look at it. Is why you focus on the mud holes? Don't you know they'll
Right.
eventually dry up, or you can go
Right.
around them? But share a little bit about your high energy right now at gmail.com. That's how people can get in touch with you.
Well, we are people. We are emotional beings, and we have energy on frequency, right? It's around everything we touch, everything we do. It's a huge synopsis. But as human beings, our feelings can get hurt and our feelings can get in the way. So say if it's somebody very close to you and they have consistently been nasty and mean and as my grandmother used to say, you could stack buttons on a melted ice cream cone and it still wouldn't be good enough for them. And they just keep being, saying really ugly things to you. And you beat yourself up for that. But it isn't you. It's not you who has the problem. And we lose our focus and we try so hard and we get beat down so much at times, Jim.
Oh yeah.
That we start to think, well, there's nothing I can do that's ever going to be right. And so this one instance in your life now has carried over into 6, 7, 8, 10 different instances. And that's what you're going into life with. Well, there's nothing I can do that's ever right because look what happened over here.
Yeah.
And so I teach people how to identify it and how to change that.
Mm-hmm. When she talks about identifying, she gets right down to the nitty gritty. She's talking, is it a person, is it a place, or is it a thing?
That's
Sometimes
right.
it could be a person here, a place over there, and a thing back there.
Yeah,
But
and it can be all of them.
yeah, exactly. And, Donna, I was just thinking there as you were talking, when it comes to our high energy, we can really let it shine by the way we treat others and let our small little ones let their eyes watch us. How we treat someone that's nicely dressed or someone that's shabbily dressed or very poorly dressed.
Right.
Do we treat them the same or do we treat them different? I got to
Exactly.
be honest with you. In the past, I've treated those two different characters different, but I will not anymore because that is 100% wrong.
Right.
And that is something that your kids are watching you like a hawk. They really are.
Well, and the interesting thing is when people do that, Jim, they forget, there's that old saying, be careful when you point a finger at somebody because
Hmm.
you've got 3 fingers pointing back at you.
That's
Do
exactly
you
right.
always go to the store dressed to the nines? Do you always go and get your car washed with all your makeup on and your good clothes on, et cetera, et cetera? So, you have to look at it. Are you living in a double standard life?
Hmm.
And when we do that, it is, again, it kind of does this with our energy. It
Hmm.
can't go anywhere, right? It's like, well, but this is this and this, and that's all it does is it
Hmm.
battles itself.
You
It
know,
battles itself.
there was a lady that I knew back in the 70s. I don't know where she is now, but she was a news caster, a evening news anchor is what I'm trying to say. And of course, she'd go through the makeup, and she used
Hmm.
to refer to it as the painted doll look. And that's what they wanted on TV. I mean, that's the way they want, if they took me in there, they'd say, okay, we're going to need a couple of buckets of makeup for this boy. We got some wrinkles. We got a whole bunch of ugliness we got to work on here.
You
But,
silly.
she used to call it, the painted doll look. And
Hmm.
believe it or not, she says, what I love to do is that when I want to go shopping or go out in public or anything like that, she says, I want to go without any makeup because no one recognizes me.
Right.
Because if I go out there dressed, looking like the TV personality, everybody's going to flog around me.
Hmm.
But if I just go as plain Jane, they leave me alone. And she says, I like that. And I told her, I said, the painted doll look as you put it, it's just okay. But I says, your natural beauty is, that's pretty nice too, And of course, I was
Right.
just paying her a compliment. But that's one thing that she said is she says, I just love being a plain Jane because people ignore me. And see,
Hmm.
there is something right there because if she's just got on makeup, she's going to be treated totally different.
Right.
What does that say about us as a people?
Yeah, how shallow are we?
Yes, ma'am.
How shallow are we?
I remember we were at the Houston International Airport, me and my son-in-law, and we went over to pick up Emmett Smith when he was playing with the Cowboys. And I was standing there, and of course Emmett said, "Let's go to baggage, pick up my bags." So he was coming down the steps. We were trying to find him where he was at, and we know we found his flight, and he was coming down the steps. Let's just go to baggage, guys. How you doing? Good to see you. And everybody was, there was a couple of ladies standing there, and they were looking at Emmett, and that's Emmett Smith, football star.
Right.
And of course, I'm standing there, and not even paying me, any more attention than a lamppost. And Donna, you know how crazy I am. And I said, no, I already told him. He told me which bags he had, and I said, well, I'll grab a couple of them for you. He said, okay, I appreciate it. So I reached in there and got the bags. These are 2 bags. He said, yeah, I appreciate it, Jim. And she says, oh, do you know Emmett? I said, yes, ma'am, I'm his bag man.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, I know we'll forget that because, the point being, because I was with Emmett, now I'm somebody. I'm the same
Right.
person I've always been.
Right.
Oh, and I love what the Mexican people do. You know, I love it because one of my first experience with Mexican people was in the early was in the 1970 when I came back from Vietnam. I was stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and you let a man walk into a room or a lady walk into a room with a bunch of strangers. What do they say? Buenos dias, good morning or good day. It's a greeting, and we walk in, and of course, nowadays we got a mask on, but if we walk in, we don't even think of saying hello to anybody,
Right.
or anything like that, because in our society, people would look at us like, "What do you want?" And that's pitiful, folks.
It
That
is
is pitiful.
pitiful.
So for the Mexican folks out there, let me salute you on that, because that shows you got character, you got class, and I got to salute you again.
Right.
I appreciate you.
So, there's so many things that, I look back and of course, I think we all try our best with our children, right? There is no rule book. There is no rule book. And so there's things that we do really well. And then there's some things that we do pretty bad. And,
I thought,
that
I thought,
hindsight.
I thought we're going to keep this on a positive note. I didn't know you were going to be talking about me.
Well, the hindsight, the whole 2020. But I remember somebody, and I don't remember what it was. Let me think. Okay, yes, I do. When I was married to my kid's father, he was always gone. He was always out of town on the road. And I would have to take them in with me to every doctor appointment, everything. So I went into the chiropractor, and they were a little bit rambunctious that day, and it was cold. So you couldn't go outside and play, and they were by a street, so that wasn't going to happen. But I said, okay, guys, I'm going to be in that room. You're going to be over here, and you're going to play, and you're going to have your best manners on, because manners what? And they all looked at me and went, manners never go out of style, Mom. And I'm like, you're right. So I go in, I get my adjustment, and I come out, and this older gentleman says, ma'am, I'd like a word with you about your children. And I think probably the blood drained from my face. I thought, oh, good Lord, what'd they do, right? What did they do? I said, yes, sir. What can I help you with? He said, those are your children, correct? And I said, yes, they are. And he said, I watched you talk to your children, and I watched you go in the room, and you've been in there about 35 minutes. And I've been out here the whole time. And I want to tell you, you have some of the best behaved children I've ever seen. And he said, it is a pleasure to sit here and not have the children ricocheting off the wall and playing, but behaving themselves. And he said, it would be great if you would help other people do the same thing. But I just set expectations and said, we have manners. There's a time to play. There's a time to get all your yayas out and be outside and get crazy and do all that. But when we're in public, it is not the time or the place. And so I always set those expectations for my children. And probably 98% of the time, they did quite well. But I think that's something that we forget, is that we have to first understand, Jim, their age level.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you're correct there. Very much so. As you were talking, that reminded me of a couple of incidents. One, I was down at Lisa's house, my daughter's house, and I was playing with Colton and Michaela, her son and daughter. And Lisa just said, Dan, you're a lot more patient with Colton and Michaela than you ever were with me and James. And so I said, well, you're forgetting one thing. Colton and Michaela are not as aggravating as you and your brother were. And of course, I remember the classic time, I think I've told this before. We're all going to, one of our relatives' place down in South Carolina, and it's summertime. Of course, back in those days in the 50s, our air conditioning was known as the 455. The four windows down, 55 mile an hour. And so one kid starts to complain, and another kid starts to complain. And there's five of us kids in the car. and Dad's driving, and Mom's over there because we don't have no seat belts. What do we need sticking seat belts for? And finally, Dad, because it's hot, and he's heard us back there whining and complaining. I don't want to go. There ain't nothing to do down there, you know. All of a sudden, he slams on the brake. We all go flying into the floorboard. And the car comes to a halt, and he turns around and he says, "You're going to go down there. You're going to enjoy yourself. If you like it or not, so shut up." So we went down there, had a wonderful time.
Because you were told to.
That's right. That's right. Oh, my goodness. You know, Donna, it really is a wonderful thing that you mentioned there about, about children and helping them understand the why that we want them to act a certain way.
Right.
Why do we want to give others respect? Because that's the way we get respect.
Right.
And it's really, very important for us to remember, like you said, the child's understanding their age, their comprehension.
Absolutely.
That is critical because they're not going to think the same way we do.
No. My children were stair-step. Boom, boom, boom. And it was amazing to watch them at all 3 different levels. 3 children, 3 different levels. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a bit of a juggling act, but here we go. One of the things Jim and I talked about, folks, before the show, and Jim, you said it so eloquently.
I did? What? Listen up. I said something eloquently. You don't want to miss this. Go ahead.
But we were talking about, we are so busy in our world right now.
Oh, yeah.
And, most, I would say, and I don't have the statistics on this, I'm just guesstimating here, but I would say probably 98% of the households, 95, 98%, both parents work, to pay for everything. And so we are so fast paced in our world, trying to get everything done and still have time, that we forget about how fast we're going when we get impatient with our children.
Yes. And the comment that I made was that we get caught up in the process of living, but we lose focus on the content of life, what life's all about. And I fell prey to that. And sometimes I still fall prey to that, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason why I'm so honest on here and so candid is because if I'm honest with myself and being honest with you, then I have room for improvement. But if I pretend that everything is okay and I pretend I've got everything all together, you're going to know I'm a phony. And I can't help but feel like a phony deep down inside, even though I may want to camouflage it or cover it or whatever. And being real, because that's what children want to see. They want to see a real person as their parent who has feelings. I mean, I was brought up when men don't cry. Who came up with that bonehead, saying? Yeah. It had to come from a guy, some Neanderthal that came out of the mountain somewhere. Some hillbilly meth head. Well, real men don't cry, Really?
Absolutely.
I've cried every time I've lost a pet. I've cried every time I've lost a loved one. And for someone to tell me that real men, or men are not supposed to cry, I feel sorry for them.
Right.
And I just say a prayer for them because they're just so far out of touch with reality. My goodness.
Right.
Because you got to have a release of your emotions. You
Absolutely.
Really do.
And, it's important to understand that our children are going to do that in different ways. Every one of our kids is going to have a different outlet. And I don't remember the exact incident, but I remember talking to somebody, and my children were younger. They were still in higher grade school. And somebody asked me a question about, what do you do for a living? And I said, you know what I do for a living doesn't matter. What matters is if I screw up raising my children, then nothing I've ever done in my life will amount to anything.
Exactly.
And I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah. One of the things that I was not real good at, and that was evaluating my child's individual child's strength, my son or my daughter, their individual strengths.
Right.
And how to compliment them on it. And, sometimes, and I'm just going off a foggy memory right now, but I think sometimes when they fell short of certain things, I tell them it's okay. Because I told them, don't, just let it go, or don't forget about it. Don't worry about it. You can't be, 100% in everything. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something along those lines. And it's so important because your child is also sometimes going to have to put up with peer pressure, and they camouflage that and they hide that.
Yes. And
And
that
if
can
they
be damaging.
and if they don't know that you're a real person that understands, they can come and talk to you, that can be a pressure cooker deep down inside of your child until they explode.
Absolutely. And it can manifest itself in many different ways.
Yes, ma'am.
We had a show here on TV where we were talking about children and drugs and parents and drugs. And, I very candidly have talked about it. I have a child that had a real issue with it. And it is a lifelong thing, having an addiction. They're always going to be an addict, but it's how they control it. And when we don't, and I always talk to my children, okay, and I really, really, really don't go back and do the woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right.
Because, we could beat ourselves up all day long for that. But something triggered for my child to start to go into drugs. Don't know what it was, but something triggered for that child. So, and that's what Jim's saying. When they can talk to you, then they feel safe within your space and not feel like they have to go somewhere else outside the home where they are not safe, not loved, not cared for.
Yeah. As you were saying that, Donna, it reminded me one time that I told my daughter, I said, listen, hon, I know the way things are in the world, and I know how innocent things can start out and how easy it is to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. I says, if you ever get in a situation where you want to get out of there and you want to come home, all you got to do is let me know. There will be no questions asked.
Yes.
And I won't say a thing to your mom about it. It'd just be, hey, Lisa, how you doing? Get in the car and let's go, And it never happened, but at least she knew that door was open. And I think that's very important for a child to have a safety net like that, to know that if they contact you, you will come and get them, and you no questions asked.
I remember having that conversation with my kids, that if they were out, if they were in high school, and I said, if you're out and you're at a party, and I said, and because I'm a realist, guys, so there was going to be drinking, right? There was going to be drinking, and I said, look, do not get in the car with anybody who's been driving. I said, you call me, y'all each have a cell phone. You call me, and I will come get you. And I don't care if you're drunker and Cooter Brown on his birthday. I said, you know what? There won't be any discussion about it. I'll just come get you. We'll get you home. We'll get you safe. Then we will sit down and have a talk. Now, not a yelling match, but we will talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, because my situation growing up, and I'm not knocking my parents. My parents did a wonderful job considering the 5 kids that they had to raise. And because we were a challenge, I got to be honest. I mean, we were not just innocent little kids. We were our own worst enemies, and
I
proud
just find
of it.
that hard to believe, Jim.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
shocked, really.
Oh, If they'd have put me out directing traffic, I would have goofed up a one-car funeral. Are you kidding me? But, I got to salute my parents on, that they did a great job with us. But, I never felt comfortable about sitting down and talking to, especially my dad. Now, my mom, I could, but not my
Mhm.
dad, because my dad had zero tolerance for nonsense.
Right.
He was very rigid in that regard. Now, looking back now and understanding his life journey, all the things he went through,
Right.
oh my gosh, he did pretty doggone good.
Right. Right.
But when you're a kid growing up,
You don't
all,
understand it.
all you see is what's right in front of you
Hmm.
in black and white because you don't know the rest of the story.
Correct.
And but yeah, that's extremely important. Let your kid know that, hey, I'm here for you. No questions asked. I'll come and get you. And
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say that a lot of kids don't feel that comfortable, or they wouldn't dare call their parents if they were in a bad situation. They'd try to call a friend, and
Right.
maybe that friend is in a situation where they need help too. you know,
Right.
I mean, it's just your kids really need that safety net. They really
Right.
do. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Absolutely. And understanding your child's strengths and weaknesses, um, because all our children are different. That is so super important.
Hmm.
So I'll give you an example. I knew from a very early age that one of my children, um, there was something not right in school, like homework wise, how it was relating. So I had made the school do tests. And I remember the principal was mad because it's a big red tape thing, et cetera, et cetera. And so we get through this in almost 6 months. So the school year is almost gone. And the principal says, well, you're right. Your child has some learning disabilities. And I knew she was going to pull this because she didn't want to be bothered.
Hmm.
So you had to have everything in writing. Otherwise, they wouldn't accept anything. So I turned
Hmm.
around and I said, well, I figured that much. That's why we're here. So
Hmm.
now here's my next request to figure out what is wrong, what
Hmm.
disability. So, long story short, turns out my child is dyslexic. Okay. And I had pretty much figured out that my child was dyslexic. Now,
Hmm.
I never told my child that they were dyslexic. From the time my child repeated kindergarten and went all the way through, I think it was probably sixth or seventh grade before they found out they were dyslexic. And my
Hmm.
child came home and I would just make them redo the papers, redo the papers. You can do this. You can do
Hmm.
this. So when my child came home and was quite mad, and I do mean quite mad, how dare you not tell me I'm dyslexic, blah, blah, blah. Went on and just, read me the right act and said, why didn't
Hmm.
you tell me? And I looked and I said, okay, now that you got that out of your system, because if I told you, it would have given you an avenue to to be easy on yourself and it would have been an easy out.
Hmm.
You are so bright and I mean most
Mm.
dyslexics are geniuses, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
my child
yes.
has an idyllic memory, was taking every college course in high school. I mean, the backpack was like 50 pounds. I kid you not. It was crazy. But I said, because I never gave you an easy out, an excuse, and I
Hmm.
pushed you,
Yeah.
you never felt sorry for yourself.
We covered something in homeschooling a week with Howard Berg, and he was talking about dealing with kids that's dyslexic and have learning disabilities and all that. And he made a wonderful suggestion. Find out what your kid is interested in and have them read it for 15 minutes. He's a speed reader. He's the world's
Right.
fastest speed reader. And you may want to go back and observe that homeschooling week. I believe it was the first show we did on that. Howard Berg was there. And he says 15 minutes, and then give them a reward, something that they enjoy, something that they like. And for dyslexic kids, show them a list. Talk about all the people, and that's available. And one thing about the internet, everything's available.
Right.
Get a list of all the dyslexic people and say, wow, look what they achieved. And just because, and all the kids, every single kid born, I don't care who it is very, very, very unique, very, very, very special. And I think we've all seen, the kid that's born. I'm trying to think of this one kid. He was, supposed to be just kind of like alive and there, but not really there. And how he could play the piano. He was able to communicate or get the connection between the vibration of the piano and him, and how he could play it, and then started singing with a beautiful opera type voice.
Right.
And it shocked everybody. And there's a lesson to be learned with that, because we have a tendency to put people in a box. We have a tendency to put our kids in a box. And
sometimes our kids put themselves in a box.
Yes. And I remember it never happened to me. I never heard these words. But, there's been some parents that tell their kid, you are no good. Oh, that is.
Oh, that's so damaging.
Oh, yeah. It really is, because there's kids that's been told that. And if they believe that, they're going to make sure, their mind will make sure that they do not disappoint themselves.
Right.
That's the power of the mind. And that's the way it works.
Absolutely. So it's important, Jim, that people understand their kids' strengths and weaknesses, and be able to harness on their strengths, which will in turn make their weaknesses a little bit easier for them to get through, because we all have strengths and weaknesses.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just the way we're made up. I can't hardly add squat in my head, but get me in front of a calculator.
And she could smoke it.
There's nothing I can't do.
The numbers are flashed on that screen like that, you can't even read them. And this lady is in like high gear, But, and I'm over there still trying to figure out how to cut it on.
You're silly. So one of the things that I think our attitude reflects on our children is what our hopes and dreams are for our children. And this can be a real struggle, right, between parents. I've had that struggle with my kid's father. He was always wanting, the boys to do sports and all the kids to do the sports he liked and blah, blah, blah. And I said, why? Well, I did it and I liked it. And I said, I get that. But that was you. That was not them. If they don't like it. So sometimes we put our hopes and dreams and pin it on our children.
Oh, yeah.
And that can be a heavy, heavy
load
burden to carry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen that, I've seen it in my lifetime, and I imagine you have too, Donna, where the parent, maybe they got married young or whatever the case was, but they wanted to, to be able to be a big dancer or this or that. And they try to push their kids. Come on, let's do it. I knew one father that he was a good golfer. And in the canyons of his mind, he wanted to be, on the PGA. He wanted to be on the tour, but but his life, with his lifestyle and not being able to practice the way he wants to or should have. He wasn't able to. And he never considered the fact that maybe he's not good enough.
Right.
But he had one son that was a good golfer. This guy could have this guy could have been a pro golfer, no question about it. Because I knew him very well. But because the father was so, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to come home for practice, you got to do this, you got to do this. And the kid just kind of like wasted that talent and walked away.
Right.
And ironically, the kid would have given his father exactly what he wanted a kid to brag on, because we grew up in a time your parents wanted to brag on their kids,
Mm-hmm.
My kid has got a job over there. He's making fantastic money. What is your kid doing? He's bagging groceries. I mean, it was just the way things were.
Right.
But if he would have backed off and just said, wow, and gave him some encouragement and gave him some, leeway there, some slack in the chain.
Quit putting him in a box.
Yes.
Putting him in the box with no escape room.
Yeah. The kid would have you might hear a helicopter coming over here. You might hear it in the background. But anyway, right over my house here, there it is. It's a Cobra. And, if he would have just backed off and let the kid, use his natural talents to develop, the kid would have made the pro tour. There's no question about it. He was that good. Because, I played golf with him a few times, and he'd say, where am I put this golf ball? And I'd tell him out there, and he'd smack that ball right out there. I mean, he was that good. He was that good. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he never sliced, he never hooked. I mean, he could, except when he wanted to, because he could slice a ball and go around a corner.
Wow.
And I couldn't do that. I'd take out tree limbs. I was good at pruning trees.
I love it. I love it. But I think when we look at our attitude and we reflect on our children and what our hopes are for them, we need to start with what attitude do you want to impart, and what do you want to nurture? Do you want to teach your child how to openly love and be a giving person? How to be kind. I remember when my children were little, I've always had animals. So from the day they were born. And so when they would go to pet the kitty, and I would take their hand and I would go across my cats and say, soft. We're soft. Always soft with kitty. Always soft with the kitty. So when they finally got to where they go up and do it themselves, they'd go up and, how kids do, and they'd pet, all funny, and then they'd look up at me and they'd go, soft, and they'd smile. But, that's what I wanted them to learn, was that kindness for the animal. And so it's little things that we do that we are imparting, what we do onto our children. So if we impart the good or the bad, either way, it's going to be there.
Yeah. And, you've heard me say this a lot about dogs. Dogs have if what a wonderful world this world would be if everyone had the loving heart of a dog.
Absolutely.
But think how a family dog could be a wonderful lesson for our kids to unconditionally love and to let them know that loving others, love themselves first and loving others, that is the pathway to not only, life, but that is the pathway to joy, jubilee, and happiness, because that's what we want for our kids. That's what we want for ourselves. And that is the secret to the formula. And one of our good friends, of course, is Bill Heinrich, and his website is truelifepurposenow.com. And if you if you want to get clarity in your life, if you want to find out about how to tap into this energy, and you spend 30 minutes with Bill Heinrich, and I'm telling you, you're going to walk away a changed person. It's impossible not to.
Right.
And
It is.
just tell him you saw it here on the show, and he'll give you 30 minutes free consultation. And Donna, I don't think we mentioned about your free consultation for 3 days, 2 months, and 1 year, right?
Yeah, Jim makes an awesome business manager.
Yeah. I make offers people can't refuse. But if you just, go to Donna's email there, highenergyrightnow@gmail.com, she'll be more than happy to give you a free 30-minute consultation. And, you can talk to her about anything because Donna is just, I've known her for some time now, several years, and she is just a top-notch lady. And she is first class all the way.
Oh, thank you. And
You're
you know
welcome.
what? It's just like talking to old friends.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's two friends just talking. That's all we're doing.
That's right.
That is all we're doing. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We all want to live and thrive.
Mm-hmm. And always remember to laugh and have fun, because that's what we do here on the show, because I've put up that little ticker tape there. And
Did you put it up again?
Yeah, Donna Geen was Mrs. Arizona 2022. I was unanimous in that vote when I made that vote, and then she got elected. But what we do there, this is our way of saying, look how we have fun. And, we joke around and we laugh about things, and that's what you need to do, because laughter is one of the best medicines you can have.
It is.
And you can afford it.
Right? It is. And that's part of our attitude, right?
Yes.
Have fun. We talked about that yesterday, Jim, that we forget as adults. Watch your children. Watch how much fun they have. Watch how they laugh at silly stuff, or they make up a silly game. And as adults, we grow up and we've got so much head trash, right? That we forget to be silly. We forget to just be in the kitchen, and if you feel like dancing, just dance. If you want to sing, sing. I don't care if you sing good or bad, just sing.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right.
And be silly. And that is such a healthy attitude.
Yes. Yes, it is. And for people who think, well, I can't act silly like a kid, just remember that's the same kind of mindset that generated the thinking that real men can't cry.
Right.
I mean, it's Neanderthalish. And I don't care if you're male or female or whatever, you got to be able to relax. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. You got to be able to have some fun. And like kids, I mean, so what? And you don't have to get drunk to act silly. I mean, I act silly a lot of times here on the show, and I'm sober. You might have seen me drinking, but you know what? I've gotten into this, and I'm going to share this with I was teasing Donna before the show. I held this up and I says, you got a match? And this is a cinnamon stick, and I'm using it. I drink it with, put cinnamon stick in my coffee, my hot tea that I just had, and my hot chocolate. Ooh, that's the cat's meow. And, because cinnamon is good for you, but I'm starting to acquire a taste for the way the flavor that it adds. I really like it. And because cinnamon is good for you. It really is. And,
very good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I highly recommend you try it, because, these cinnamon sticks are very inexpensive, and heck, they work great. They really do. Donna, it's almost time for us to go, but tomorrow we're going to continue on this thing, and we're going to be talking about children and dealing with their behavioral problems.
Right. And how to be consistent, and remember how to set goals, help your children set goals for themselves.
One of the things we're going to talk about is lying.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yep. I've still probably got a couple of stripes on my backside from that one, Defiance and spending too much screen time, that creates problems, because, your kids are so, they watch all these things that they see on the internet and TV and all, and it just really it has a tendency to scar their minds and warp their way of thinking, because you look at action movies, they can't make a movie unless they blow up 25 cars, 6 buildings, and kill 50 people.
Right.
Going like, that's not entertainment. Yeah, I like the old mysteries. And one of the shows I used to really love, haven't been able to see it, was the Mastermind, where the people would go in and, they would, maybe I shouldn't say this on the air, but anyway, they were very creative in the way they acquired things. Let me put it like that. But the mental challenge and the mysteries, oh my goodness. Think about the old mysteries used to be there on TV, because you going through there, you're part of the journey. Oh,
right.
And I share that with you because with kids want to be part of your journey. Make it interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And these are just some things that, some tips and stuff. Mm-hmm. One of the things I know we're going to be talking about is redirecting negative behavior.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big one. And setting clear boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Donna, I'm out of quarters and we're out of time. So what
I know. So tomorrow it is.
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow. So be here, and thank you again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Most importantly, we appreciate that our show is continuing to grow internationally around the world. And we realize, to be honest with you, we realize that you could be watching anybody's entertainment, their show, whatever. And we really appreciate and thank you from the bottom of our heart that you chose to spend time with us.
He bless us.
Yes. And on behalf of Donna and myself, thank you so much for tuning in. And we're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place. And we hope to see you then. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed evening. Take care. Love yourself first, then you can love others.